Yo, what's up everybody? Horny Nice with you here, bringing you Fire Force anime review. This is episode 2, titled The Hearts of a Fire Soldier. This episode was really good. It starts off funny and interesting, and then it goes from that to being real sad, real quick, and I love the transition of how they did it. We have Captain Obi telling Shinra that there's going to be this little tournament called the Rookie Tournament, and it's for all the new recruits who are rookies, and only they are going to compete in this tournament against each other, just to see who's who and where's they at, and how much knowledge they have of Fire Force, and where they're at basically overall in this whole tournament archy. And he was like, hey, you and our other new recruits gonna be entering, only y'all two. And he's like, another one? He's like, yeah, he should come up today. And when he's saying this, Shinra leaves the office, and he's thinking, there's going to be people there from my past who made fun of me and know who I am. Hopefully I don't bump into any of them. And the instant he said that, we see a kid with blonde hair outside saying, this is going to be my new castle. Interesting. And when he goes inside the church, they cross paths. Then we switch to Iris and Mika, who's on top of the roof, playing with fire. Mika, she made like this little fireball, and she's controlling it with her power, and she made it into like this little cute anime fireball. And Iris is like, oh, that's so cute, and she was gonna touch it. She's like, don't touch it, it's gonna burn you. It's still made of fire. And she's like, I wish I was a third gen, because they can be able to produce their own fire and manipulate it. Second gen can only manipulate it. So that's what she was saying. And as she's saying this, we get to see the new recruit, which his name is Arthur Boya. We see him and Shin are fighting. And he tells Shin, today I'm going to defeat you and break our record. And he was like, yeah, bet, whatever. And they going back and forth, insulting each other. Shinra called him a crusty knight, and he keeps calling Shinra the devil. And they just go back and forth with this exchange. And the nun there and Mika, who's a firefighter as well, they're like, what's going on? Y'all two know each other? Who's this guy? And Shinra explains to him who he is and stuff. And we have this funny moment. I had to go check in the manga. It happened in the manga as well. That he's explaining the situation of who this guy is and why he calls himself the king of the Night King. And they kind of interested in him because he's supposed to be like this good-looking blonde-haired character. He's basically the Sasuke. This guy Naruto. And when he's explaining it to them, there's this quick scene that happens real quick where Shinra's explaining it to them, but he turns around and he looks at us viewers and he's like, right guys? And I'm like, oh snap, Shinra broke the fourth wall. Most powerful shonen protagonist. And I was joking, by the way. He's not the most powerful, but it was a joke. But it was funny to see him break that fourth wall, and we get them to almost continue to fight, but the lieutenant steps in, Hina Hawaii, and he steps in and he breaks it up, and he says, since you're both here in recruits, we're going to start your training right now, since you're eager to fight. And he has both of them, Arthur and Shinra, versus Mika. And they were both like, both of us against her. And we find out that Arthur's also a third generation firefighter, just like Shinra. So it was 2 third years versus a second gen. And they were getting kind of cocky, but she actually ended up bodying Shin and kicking him over the roof. And she also bodied Arthur. She had held him down on his knees, and she pushed him to the side. And this is when things get kind of bad, because Arthur was like, you ain't no fire soldier, you're an ogre. And she got really upset. And then Shinra tries to come in and sneak attack her, and she looks at him, and he gets scared because of her face, and he was like, oh my god, you're an ogre. So she gets super upset, and she takes both their flames, and she makes this one evil flame, you see one of my thumbnails, and she tells them, do you want to continue? And they both get so petrified that they look at each other, they look at us, and they were like, we quit. And they both sit in the corner just bummed out, sad. And you have the lieutenant there, Hinawari, explain to them their faults and stuff and things they have to improve on for this little rookie tournament that's to come. Then after that, we get sent to the weapon room, and we get to see different weapon training that's going on with them. And in the weapon room, we find out that they have to do it themselves because they don't have an engineer. That's something that they missing in their crew, is an engineer to fix their weapons and make more weapons. So for now, they're just doing it by themselves, homemade, and it takes them a longer while. And we find out that Captain Obi, who has no powers, really need these weapons. So they try to focus on these weapons a lot. and they gave Shin a axe to use just in case, precaution purposes. And as they discussed in the weapon room, the siren rings out and they have to dip for their mission. And as they go on their mission, Captain Obi tells them something unique that's not in the rules. He tells them, whatever you do, don't take out your weapons in public. You're not allowed. And Shinra and Arthur is like looking at each other like, why? But they don't say nothing. And when they get to the destination, we find out that little girl, not a little girl, she's a teenager now, but this girl that's outside crying, her father just turned into an Inferno. But a couple years back, when she was a little girl, the same thing happened to her mother. So everyone's kind of pitying her because it's just bad luck. And Shinra and Arthur takes out their weapons. And the captain looks at them and gets mad. He takes them to the side and he's like, why did you take out your weapons? And they explain that there's no such thing as rules for this. Why not? We have to use these weapons to slay the Inferno anyway, so we would have been able to take them out beforehand and not wait until the last minute. And this is when Captain Obi tells them something important that they didn't get it until he said it, that their job is not just to put down the Inferno to rest, but also to cure the hearts of the loved ones that are left behind. They have to live the realization that they're not gonna ever see their loved ones. And as you see in my title, I love how Obi puts that in, because in real life, that's technically what firefighters have to go through. Besides going and burning homes and saving animals and people and taking out dead bodies that are people that already died by accident in the fire, to explain this to the loved ones and also make sure that the loved ones are okay and will continue to live. That's technically what firefighters go through every single day. So I love that realization of that realism of how real that is. Maybe not fighting the monster demons and stuff like that and the powers, that's not real, but the main point of the staple of the episode was we have to not just defeat these fire infernos, but we have to save the people that they leave behind as well and cure their hearts and protect them. So that was a very interesting concept and I loved it a lot. And it was very interesting because when they went inside the house to slay the Inferno was still thinking, and it was the dad, and he was just looking at the picture of his family photo, the wife, himself, and his daughter. It was a very old photo because, the daughter is now a teenager and she's not a little girl no more, and the wife's been dead because she was the first one to turn her into Inferno. And he's just looking at the picture and he's not saying nothing. But when the firefighter stepped in front of him, he doesn't go berserk, he just looks at them with a sad face. And Arthur was like, can I put him down? And Captain Obi was like, okay, go ahead. And as you see in my other thumbnail, his power, Arthur, is that he put like a high level intensity flame on the hilt of his sword, which doesn't have a blade, and he makes a fire sword that's blue, and his plasma sword, and he uses that to blow out the chest of the Inferno and save him as they pray for him, which is very unique because one of my favorite Shaolin Jump manga, Shaolin King, the main protagonist is the same way. He has a sword, but once he unsheaths it, instead of it having a blade like this does, his doesn't have a blade. He has to put energy into it to make the blade. So Arthur kind of reminds me of that. But as this goes on, the roof starts to collapse with black powder, and everyone has to rush out. But Captain Obi stays behind to save the picture for the little girl. And we get to see this new character with long black hair and an eye patch, who has some black sand and a veil. So I guess he's the new enemy. And after everything is said and done, Captain Obi gives the picture book to the little girl, and he was like, here, I believe your parents were protecting you from the flames. I know this is going to be sad for you, but you're going to have to be strong for your parents' sake and move forward. And she just sits there with the picture, holding it tightly, crying. And we have Shinra and also Arthur there, and they really sad because they couldn't do nothing to save her. And they couldn't even sleep at night because of the situation. Even though this mission was done in the daytime or evening time, they still couldn't sleep at night because they had the thought process in their head of, wow, we couldn't save this man from becoming an Inferno or turn him back. And yet he wasn't even doing nothing. He just became an Inferno, but he was calm. Which is very unique because Infernos, once a person becomes that, they usually go berserk and attack everything and set everything on fire. So, it was a very good episode. That's basically how it ended, with Shinra and Arthur talking to each other and trying to fix this problem. Very good episode, very great stuff. I'm interested to see who that guy with the black hair and the eye patch is. We know he can control flames, and we know he had that black smoke, so I'm very interested to see who he is and what he does in the future. But that's all I have for you guys. Let me know what you like and didn't like about the episode. And peace out and have a good one.